Hello, my name is Nina Wessels. I am a child and adolescent psychotherapist and an adult psychoanalyst. I have been working for more than 30 years now, I think, with children and families and adults, helping them with emotional and behavioral and relationship difficulties. I did my training as a child psychotherapist at the Tavistock Foundation Trust in London, and I've worked in the NHS, the National Health Service of England, as a child psychotherapist. Currently, I work at the Brent Centre for young people as a therapist and a psychoanalyst, where I particularly work with adolescents and also with their parents. And I am a psychoanalyst in private practice. I think it is because adolescence is a particularly challenging developmental stage when rapid bodily and psychic changes take place within the adolescent that bring about enormous psychological upheaval for the young person. And within this turmoil, various tasks are at hand, namely exploring and establishing a sense of identity, including a sexual identity, the transition from life in the family to life in the wider world, choosing a course of higher education, a vocational career path. In other words, the adolescent has to manage separation, loss, choice, and independence in the midst of this emotional turbulence. Psychoanalysis, like other psychological approaches, try to understand the behavior so that what the adolescent do and how they do it are seen as something with meaning and meaning about their internal life. And maybe that's important, that it's not only about what the adolescent does outside, at school, at home, in college, with friends, but actually what it is that they may experience inside, internally. And then we think about the fact that in psychoanalysis, adolescence won't be seen as if this is the first time or new completely what the young person is experiencing, because it will see the adolescent developmental stage as a kind of a point in a path, in a journey, because it will look at how this turmoil that I've talked about reawakens the struggles of infancy and early childhood that centers on the child's love of one parent and jealous hostility towards the other, and all the complex consequences that has for the child. And this way of looking at it, particularly when you think about the child's relationship with the parents, were framed by Freud in 1897, and have passed into popular consciousness as the Oedipus complex. So what had seemed something that was surmounted, that the younger child has dealt with in terms of his relationship or her relationship towards the parents, erupts again and must be reworked before the move into early adulthood. And the form in which this reworking takes place contributes to the difficulties that parents encounter with their adolescent children, or what teachers see in the classroom, or what the community, the wider society experiences from adolescence. So I think it is the particular theoretical framework that psychoanalysis uses to help make sense of what the adolescent goes through and how to understand that. The adolescent tends to act out. They want to get rid of the difficult feelings. So clinically, it might mean that you may have difficulty in get the adolescent to attend their sessions regularly or on time. They may show their frustration with you, the clinician, or with their situation in the world by not turning up for their sessions, or by coming late, or by being very oppositional during the sessions. So clinically, they may find it difficult to take in and reflect in a way that we might feel is easier to work with. But of course, that is part of the clinical challenge, how to work with that, and to how to address that with the adolescent, and how to understand that, again, that it has meaning. I also think clinically it is difficult for the adolescent because of the stage where they are in trying to become more independent from the parent. So they may still need the parent to support them to come to therapy, for instance, whether it is, supporting them in coming, physically driving them there, or accompanying them there, or helping them to attend during, in a busy timetable, and so on. And at the same time, they want to really not maybe have the interference or the intrusiveness, or the parents to intrude upon their therapy. So that can also be clinically difficult, how to manage that, to really have a separate space and an independent space for the adolescent, but also may have to manage a situation where they are still needing the parents to an extent. I think when we have a surge of rebelliousness, wanting to act out when maybe especially an authority or a perceived authority figure in our lives makes us angry, or makes us feel that they are putting boundaries around us, whether it is a manager or a boss. I think that surge of wanting to stand off and wanting to fight back, and maybe say something that you afterwards, which you didn't say, or sending an email with a rant that you afterwards, which you didn't send. I think that is sometimes the acting out adolescent that may come into us. And sometimes maybe in a fun way, it's not all negative. If we really want to have fun and have a party and enjoy ourselves, and feel a sense of youth and that embracing of life, and that something is open before us that we can enjoy. So I think in different ways we can, the adolescent in us could come out. So often people find it very anxiety provoking themselves, like parents or teachers or friends, when an adolescent may disclose to them the depth of their desperation or of their turmoil. And I think just being able not to reassure the adolescent that everything is going to be okay, or try and deny it, or try and distract them, but being with them and listening to them and bearing with them what their internal state is a way that we can help. Because if we can bear it with them and not shy away from it, then they can over time start to bear it better themselves, rather than acting into it or wanting to do something about it, but maybe explore it and be more able to stay with those painful thoughts, or the painful conflicts, or the disturbing feelings that they experience during this time. So I would say this inner turmoil, we can help them by being with them, staying with it in the room, by not avoiding it, and by helping to contain that with them in the room. Then the second thing I think we can be helpful with is in terms of relationships. A lot of the adolescents that come through our door struggle with relationships with their parents, understandably, as we've just talked about. Quite often the anger and the rage is towards the parents. They will maybe become quite oppositional. They may become quite unpleasant, difficult to live with, and if they can experience in the therapeutic relationship that difficult things can be talked about, and that some of their upset and rage could be expressed, not, with someone who's not in their daily life, but where there is a safe distance and a safe space where this could be talked about, and even maybe reenacted with the therapist. But of course, the therapist is not the parent, so may have a bit more time and distance to take in and absorb and digest what the adolescent bring, and help the adolescent to see how these kind of relationships that they experience or how they engage in them in the outside world comes into the therapy room, and it could be looked at there and could be understood there. And I think that often help the relationships in the outside world to improve. And I thought that the third one was to explore their identity, who they are, who they want to become. And what are their questions around that? What are their, how do they think and feel about who they are now and the future? And part of that, I think, goes together with really separating from their parents and, in the process of getting ready to leave home and make a life of their own, not only physically, I think very much also the life of the mind, help them to develop a mind of their own, that they can have their own opinions, their own ideas, their own thoughts. Of course, being influenced by all the people around them and all the people who have brought them up and taught them and lived with them, but really that they have a sense that they are a person in their own right. And I think that exploration could be very helpful for the adolescent.